Hey guys, Chris with Tillman Family Farms. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please go down and like and subscribe and ring that bell so you'll see all the videos that we put out. All right guys, so if you're back, you are here for the second round of how to start a pork enterprise. So in the first video, there are some things that you should have gone over. So if you have not watched that first video, there's things you need to do. So you need to go back and watch that video. Why are you wanting to get into pork? Can I sell it, and where? What kind of pigs do I want to breed, and then get educated on those pigs. Where's my feed supply? Where am I getting it from? How far is it, and is it readily available? And then processing, and then the laws within your state to sell. Those are the first things that you need to backtrack and make sure you know before we dive into this video. All right guys, so to this point you've done all your studying, you've learned what kind of pigs you want to raise, and found your butcher and all that kind of stuff. So at this point you have to ask yourself, where are you going to farm? I'm sure that some of you that are watching this have already have a farm, or have inherited a farm, bought a farm, whatever. Some of you may just live on 10 acres. And to answer your question, can you do this on 10 acres? Sure you can. It's just how high can you scale up? How big can you get? So there's a lot of different ways to do this. If you're starting out and you don't have any land to do this, I would suggest that you find somewhere to lease some land. Buying land is a very, very big purchase on a startup. So look at leasing land. If you already have land, you could do this, I would probably say, to some extent, on probably about 5 acres. My wife and I basically homesteaded on 2 acres for about 12 years. Gardening, we raised pork for ourselves, chickens for eggs, had horses there, all sorts of stuff. So where there's a will, there's a way. But that's the next thing. You have to find where you can do this at. You have to make sure that in that county, in that area, that you can do that there. You may find 25 acres that's available to lease or whatever, but if the local zonings and things like that won't allow you to do this in that spot, then it's probably not going to work out for you. Looking down the road, I mean, it's a big deal. You really don't need much if you're going to be raising pastured pigs. The infrastructure is always portable, and we'll get to all that. So, you know, solar chargers and electric fencing. The biggest thing that you're going to need is water. So if you have a piece of land that you can work out like that, having water already on it, whether it be a really good well or a city or a county water tap, those would be big pluses to a piece of property to start a pork enterprise on. All right, so you've done all your studying, you've found your farm, and some of the next questions are, what do you need? So we've already talked about sourcing feed. So feed is going to be one of your biggest things. You're going to need a way to water them, and then you're going to need an infrastructure that will consist of electric fencing. If you're going to do this a different way and you're going to hard fence everything, then have at it. It's pretty expensive. You'll learn that really, really quick. But I will say this, it's not a bad idea to have a full perimeter fence around the property that will at least contain animals inside the property if you were to have some type of failure in an electric fence charger, tree falls on the fence, you know, whatever may happen to an electric fencing need. So you'll need a place to receive them. So if you're gonna, when you get started, you're gonna have to buy piglets, or you're gonna have to buy a breeding pair or something like that. So you'll need some way to transport them. This can be as simple as taking some hog panels and just wiring them together and sticking them in the back of your truck. Pretty simple stuff. If you have a livestock trailer, that's great. Throw them in there, bring them home. You'll need an area to receive them in that is prepared for them. And unless you know for a fact that these pigs that you are bringing to the farm are trained to electric fence already, then you will probably need to have a training pen set up. I've got one still set up on the other side of the farm, so we'll go over there in just a few minutes and take a look at it. They're really, really simple. It's electric, and then it's got a hard fence behind the electric so that they won't blow through it while they're learning that electric wire. So a way to transport them, a place to receive them, a place to train them to electric, and then areas in the infrastructure fencing wise set up and ready to be moved around. Water that can be moved around. These can be simple pails. I mean, you can build a simple trough feeder, a tire feeder, anything like that would be a good starting point without spending a lot of money to get started when you get pigs to your farm to begin with. So we're going to take a minute and we're going to run over to the other side of the farm and we're going to take a look at this training pen so that you'll understand what I'm talking about. All right, guys, so behind me is the last training pen that we had set up. We don't have piglets right now, so we don't have a reason to have a training pen working currently. So I've removed the wire from the inside of this and I've removed the charger. The only thing that's still here are these hog panels. Now these hog panels are 16 feet long. We put these things together literally. I've got some rebar stakes that I drive in the ground, and literally we zip tie all of this stuff together. It is a hard barrier that is the outside perimeter of this pen. On the inside, you're going to have one single strand of electric wire that runs down about nose height of these piglets. You can do that in a lot of different ways. You can buy fiberglass stakes with the yellow insulators that you can raise up and down. That's probably one of the most popular ways because you can set the level of the wire that you want. You can buy step-in posts. Step-in posts actually have little notches that you can put the wire in. Either way works. We've used it all. We've trialed and tribulation with anything and everything you can think of on this. So we're going to spend some time on this training pen because a training pen is a very integral part of what you'll do when you're starting to move your piglets to pasture. So it's very important that you set this training pen up in a location that is where you want to start running your pigs on pasture or through the woods or wherever it may be, because what you want to be able to do is introduce them to moving from paddock to paddock to paddock from the training pen. You start from day one. So you know, some people say pigs learn that hot wire within a couple of days, which a lot of them do. Normally we like to try to leave them in there for 2 to 3 weeks just to be sure. And then we will set up a paddock right outside of the training pen, and then we will remove a panel from the training pen to release them into the next paddock. Okay, so it's very, very important. Be strategic, be thinking ahead of where these pigs are going to run, not just the first move, the second move and the third move and the fourth move and the fifth move. Because what I did when I first started doing this, when we were homesteaders, we raised pigs in a barn, and they never moved. They never went anywhere. And we started watching a lot of videos from Chuck Lewis at Sheriff Park Farms. We watched a lot of videos from Jordan Green, Joel Salatin, all of these guys that have a lot of content out there about this particular subject. And I was like, oh, this is a great idea. So I started them in an area, and then all of a sudden, I didn't have anywhere to move them to. So I learned very, very early to think ahead, think ahead, think ahead. You're doing that, this whole entire process is thinking ahead. You're thinking ahead on months and months and months out on when you want to set a processing date. You're looking, you know, 10 paddocks ahead of where the pigs are now to make sure you got somewhere to go. There's a lot of things with that. So before we get away from this training pen, I'm going to take the camera down and go show you how this is put together. Like I said, there's no wire in here and there's no solar charger on this right now. But after this, we're going to continue into infrastructure. We're going to go out here to a pig set that I've got set up right now and show you how we keep pigs and the way that we move them from paddock to paddock. So when I tell you that I got a rebar stake and zip ties, literally that's what it is. Okay, so you can do this starting out. Of course, I mean, I would, really depends on how brave you are and how many piglets you want to start with, or how many pigs you would like to start with. But you can do 4 of these panels. You can pick them up at a local Tractor Supply. I'm sure that a lot of your local farm supply stores, Rural Kings, whatever, would have some of this stuff. Actually, I do still have the wire in here. It's hanging over there on the fence, but that's what this is. And this ground will recover. We'll actually take this down because this is not where it'll be next time, and I'll drag a disc harrow through here and throw some seed out, and then it'll all grow back. So here's the other thing though. So you see this area out here that's starting to green back up? This is the first area that the pigs went into from here. You can look right up there next to that barn and you can see the line where the paddock stopped. So all of that area out through there in these woods is where this group of pigs is running. So now we're moving on to infrastructure that you're gonna need. So we're gonna go up here and we're gonna take a look at a couple of things in an actual pig set. All right, so, excuse me. So behind me here, this is one of our feeder groups. This is a feeder group of 10. We'll talk about this probably in the 3rd installment of this series, but we have started running feeder groups in sizes that we intend to take to the processor. So this whole entire group of 10 will go to the processor at one time. We used to do this differently. We would take 2 this month, 3 next month, 4 this month, 5 that month. But what that was doing was it was stretching us out on feed. We were feeding animals longer than we should have, which was cutting into the amount of money that we spent and all sorts of stuff. But we're gonna cover that in depth in another episode. This is Starkline electric netting. We use Starkline. We actually formed a relationship with them, and we have grown to love their product. The customer service is great. So we use them for everything we do. There are other brands of netting out there. Premier One, Gallagher, and then there's a whole horde of other off-brand whatever. But so what this is this is set up to simulate what the training pen was, okay? So we have this out here that looks like the same hard fencing down there. Then on the inside of that, we have one single strand of electric. They normally never even test that one single strand, but with setup like this, we've rarely ever had a problem. There were a couple of cases last summer before we started doing this way that we were just relying on the netting. And when you're out in a wooded area like this or a pasture, sometimes this netting will get drug around and you'll have some issues with it. And that's exactly what happened to us. Down at the bottom in a corner, we had some strands along the bottom that were way back over here and way back over here that were broken. So the bottom of this netting was not energized. So pigs investigating and investigating and investigating, and then the next thing you know, we had 14 250-pound feeder pigs roaming through the woods about a mile away from the farm. It was not a fun day. There's a video on that. You go watch that. It's quite interesting. So anyway, I'm gonna take the camera down. I'm gonna show you how this is set up right here. I'm gonna show you how we water, and I'm gonna show you bulk feeder setup right here too, okay? Very simple. We use Gallagher fence chargers. There is a ground rod here that we're connected to. And then you can see the red alligator clip coming from the charger inside to that poly wire on the inside. Then you can see how far that line is off the netting there. And we use all sorts of different types of step-in posts and fiberglass posts and all kinds of stuff to put this stuff up. All right, so this is our bulk feeder. The top to it got torn up, so we improvise. When you have a farm, you improvise a lot of things. Anyway, the pigs learn to come and lift the doors up. Hey, piggy. So they learn to do that. Pigs. Then these are our water barrels. We try to put 3 nipples on each water barrel. This is a pig nipple. So a pig nipple screws in, and then they just, uh-oh, is this one out of water? Yep, I need to fill that one up. Let's see what this one's got going on. This one's still got plenty in it. But anyway, they put their mouth on that, and they just, it's spring loaded, and then water comes out. So we will also get to another apparatus that we use to fill these way out in the middle of nowhere, because it's not easy to fill them when they're not close to the farm and you don't have a water line out here. I'm going to walk you around over here and show you how I have these things set up so that we can just move to the next pin. So I will suggest that you have enough of this stuff for 2 sets at least. So if you're gonna run 1 feeder group, you're gonna have enough netting and wire and charger for them to be in, and then enough for them to move into, and then you take this down for your extra set. So my next move, so this paddock is behind me, so my next move is this way. So now let's go over here and see where everything's attached and connected so that we'll have an opening to move into this side. All right, so I've got 2 things going on right here, okay? So this is where my 2 sets of nettings actually connect. I just realized this is poultry netting and utility net. Anyway, so this is where my netting connects. So I can open this right here. So if I set up my next paddock where I'm standing and put the opening there, then I can open everything up to it. So the second thing that's going on here is that my reel with my electric wire on it and my handle is also right here close by, so that I can take it down and reel this wire back so that I can let them through this way. So always be strategic when you do this stuff. You're always thinking ahead. You can't ever think far enough ahead. This is one of the things, moving the pigs and moving them into a setup, that really slowed me down at first, because I didn't understand how they were moving them, where they were moving them, out of the paddock and all that stuff. So, but these guys, so you can see the damage that they've done. All of this under here, there's a lot of hickory nuts and all sorts of other stuff in here, and they've been in this paddock for about a week and a half. So it's Thursday, so they'll probably move on Sunday. So guys, I was talking about that extra set of netting and things like that to be able to move these guys in. So we have 4 different sets. We normally run 3 separate groups. Okay, so we have 2 groups that move, and then we have a breeder group that's up here on the hill. If you are going to do a farrow to finish program, it would be good for you to set up a breeding area, or you can do them just like you're doing here. The only difference with that is how comfortable do you feel leaving a boar in with them. So that's a whole nother something. But anyway, the whole reason I said this is because this is a whole nother set. So I got 1 set of netting, 2 set of nettings. This is all of my hot wire on the inside posts, and then there's probably a reel on the ground at the other end of this that has my electric wire on it. And then we'll just take this charger and swap it to the other side. But anyhow, we're getting close to the end of this one. So you got a lot more things to study all of a sudden. Everything from the first video should have already been studying that. It's been a couple days. So now you're studying all of your infrastructure. How are you going to feed? What are you going to choose? We talked about pan feeding, talked about tire feeders, talked about all kinds of stuff, showed you a bulk feeder up here. Water to begin with can be something as simple as a pan, but you'll learn very quickly that pigs will knock that over and it'll be worthless. The pig barrels up here that we use a 55-gallon drum. We put the nipples up so high so that it contains a fair amount of water in the bottom of it to keep it weighted down so the pigs don't knock it over. But then we fill those barrels up, and that's basically one of the easiest ways to water. We do have an automatic watering system that uses an IBC tote to a barrel with a float. But the other thing you need to start researching is electric. You know, we use solar. There's a lot of people that don't think that solar packs enough punch, but if you spend enough time training your pigs in a training pen before you ever get them out, and then you use the same setup, what appears to be a solid barrier that they can't run through, and then a hot wire on the inside of it, just like their training pen, they have a tendency to just leave it alone all the way around, and it works great. We use Gallagher S20s and we use Gallagher S40s. Both of those are solar chargers. You can find them all over the internet. Gallagher's got a really good site. Stark Line Netting has a really good site for this netting. They also sell chargers and some poly wire. Check both of those out. If you do decide to do anything with Stark Line, we have a discount code for Starkline. At checkout, you'll enter Tillman Family, all one word, at checkout for 10% off with Starkline. So it's time to go do some homework again, guys. Go study infrastructure, and when we come back the next time, we're going to talk about receiving pigs and then caring for the pigs on a day-to-day basis, how long they should grow, and all those things like that. So stay tuned, stick with us. We appreciate you guys watching, and if you haven't done so, please go down, like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next video.